Cool. All right. Well, we'll get started. So this is going to be a kind of a big summary of what all I've done these past 10 weeks. I can't believe 10 weeks has come and gone so fast. It really has been an incredible opportunity right off the bat. Thank you all so much for all the mentorship you provided me, just giving me so much support, especially Ryan and Sean. Props to you guys, because they really took me under their wing and helped me develop as a software engineer intern. So, right, yeah. The first day is like, you need to pep 8 all of this. So, yeah. Right, yeah, no, it has. So, I was bored one weekend before I started here, and I created MesoPy as kind of a self-serving. I had published some undergraduate research in urban heat island effect, and when I was retrieving that data, I noticed it was just an incredible pain to retrieve that data. I could only retrieve it from MesoWest 1 year at a time, and I was doing 6 stations. So I did make 40 different requests to MesoWest to get all this data. So I discovered, just through some Googling, that MesoWest had just created an API, and they were giving the public access. And so I wanted to kind of create a Python wrapper as my first big Python project ever that kind of encompasses everything that MesoWest is. And so I created this alone on a weekend over some beers. And when I got here, it was completely overhauled by Sean and Ryan's advice. But MesoWest, MesoPy ended up presenting this at the main Unidata users workshop. And I thought it went over pretty successfully, but it's actually, I shared it with the Reddit community a couple of days ago, and it's kind of taken off now, and it's got over 1,000 unique visits in the last couple of days, and I got several people starring the repo. The MesoWest folks love it, and I got people internationally even that want to use it, but of course we don't have data for anywhere outside the United States. So what it does is there's 40,000 observation stations in the MesoWest network, and this allows you to access all of them in 3 lines of code. Up to 1 million observations are taken there every day. You can get station observations all the way back to 1996, and you can request up to 100,000 station hours at any one time. So before I could only request 1 year, but now it's something, yeah, like way more than that, 14, I don't know, Steve's doing the math in his head right now, but. So, yeah, this is the general README and everything, and you can kind of just read through it yourself. But what I really want to hit on are these little badges up at the top that Sean and Ryan kind of introduced me to. So I thought I knew how to program. Turns out I wasn't the best programmer. I think we can all say that at some point in our lives when we're starting out. But Sean and Ryan kind of walked me through core Python again when I first started. But what they did immediately after looking at my code was teach me how to test my code. That's something I'd never done before in my life. Like I never, you know, you just kind of run your code and hope it works, but you don't actually have unit tests for it or anything. So I learned how to unit test within 3 days of being here. I learned how to monitor my code health. Like, so you can run it through this, it's called, is it coveralls or is that landscape? That's landscape. Yeah. For Steve, is that suit your old, get off my lawn. Suit those old eyes. Does that suit those old eyes? Yeah. So yeah, Travis. This is Travis. You can automate your testing, code health. So this monitors my code health, and then how much my tests are providing coverage for. I can't provide coverage for the other 13% of my code because it's all API retrieval. And so it's like I would have to test for like an internet connection, and that's kind of impossible, to my knowledge.
When should we ask questions?
Whatever you want to do.
Travis will do all of those things?
No, this is Travis, this is landscape, this is coveralls. 3 different packages that you can use to kind of set up your repo in Python.
And they all have a post.
Yeah. They also taught me how to create documentation. So one of the really naive things, I guess, in my introductory courses is that you make line-by-line comments, you know, when you're turning in an assignment to an instructor. But I never heard of really doc strings, and I never generated any kind of docs whatsoever. So they taught me how to use Sphinx, and they taught me how to use doc strings and make that process automated. So now I can just go in and do a make HTML command, and boom, there are my docs that's ready to upload. So Mesopy has a full set of docs now, which is pretty awesome. So you can go in and do whatever. So that was my first project here. I presented that and kind of moved past it once it was in kind of more of just a maintenance mode. Basically, I provide any support for it, and I plan to support it well into the future. I'd hoped it would land me a PhD spot at the University of Utah because I really wanted to join John Horrell's group, and John Horrell's he runs Meso West. So maybe in a couple of years, John will see, or Dr. Horrell will see this and be like, "Oh, hey, I remember you. And give me a PhD slot," but that's beside the point. So, yeah, so moving on, I discovered, I was just kind of goofing off one night and discovered Ryan has this project called WAVE. It's this weather analysis and visualization environment where he had messed around with OpenGL and wanted to kind of create a new visualization environment that, you know, kind of works with all of the meteorological data that we have. And so he kind of just let me take over the reins on that, and we wanted to experiment with PyQt, which is a kind of bindings for Qt and C. I think that's written in C, right? Anybody use Qt? So the Qt GUI framework. And so I wanted to experiment using Siphon and MetPy combined. Siphon to retrieve the data, MetPy to visualize the data, and then PyQt to kind of provide this GUI interface. We ended up scrapping this project after Ryan came back from Sci-Fi and was like, "There's a totally different, better way to do this all, and we should just kind of go and stand still or whatever." But I'll just show you all really quickly what that looks like. Oh my God, that's so tiny. Right, and so WAVE was just kind of this really primitive GUI interface. Wow, that's super dark. Can't see any of that. So anyway, what it does is it strips out, what I did was I stripped out Matplotlib's navigation toolbar and used it in PyQt, which is actually pretty cool. I had no idea that could really be done. And then created these kind of few buttons over here that's just really basic. We were just kind of testing and seeing what we could actually get away with in PyQt. And so, as you can see, it's really slow because it's written in Python obviously. But yeah, basically you can create these SKUTs, or you can use it for radar imagery or whatever. So all this was just testing the waters with PyQt to see if this would even look pleasant or if this would even be a good idea. So
what data is being rendered here?
That's the NTSS. That is, 7/31/2015.
Model data.
Correct.
Virtual model data.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Sure. Right. So I guess when I started, I didn't want to develop one particular project. I wanted to kind of get an overview of the entire software engineering, unit testing and everything, and then even working with GUIs. And so that's why I pursued this particular project until it came to a point to where we said, this is not going to be sufficient for what we want to create in the long term. So it was definitely kind of a lesson learned, like, hey, this is not a viable solution for what we're trying to accomplish. So it was fun to do. I got to experiment working with Qt's 1,000 different classes and over 6,000 different functions. So that was kind of a lot to wrap my head around, and luckily Ryan's pretty amazing in Qt.
So it wasn't viable just because you found something like that?
Right. I can't remember off the top of my head what he said. It was some type of new technology that was going to make 3D rendering especially great in Python. And you do know?
I forget the name of it. Basically, Python bars GL.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Just attached pi to everything. So that was WAVE. That was really cool because I never really hit like kind of a brick wall before, and this is a neat project to kind of implement, making a GUI. seeing MetPy and Siphon kind of work together to visualize a SQT, to visualize a radar image, and then seeing it all in some type of kind of crude interface. After that, I kind of transitioned my efforts more towards working with Siphon, and getting prepped for the Python Users Workshop. And so with Siphon, I made several small commits, created some issues, closed some issues. But more so, I created an example for Siphon and then presented Siphon at the Python workshop. So, yeah.
It's BizPy.
BizPy.
One interface that will work for both OpenGL on the desktop and WebGL. Well,
Nice. Cool. Oops. I had this pulled up. So what I started to do during my time here was explore and starting to master all the different libraries that are available: Matplotlib, Cartopy, Bokeh, Flask, etc. And so this is one of the first instances where I got to really work with Cartopy, whatever, to kind of create maps from all of the data we have that can be retrieved from Siphon. And so this example was just using Siphon to query in CSS, and it's available in the Unidata Python workshop repo. And if you were at the actual course, you would have gotten taught this. But basically, yeah, it just goes through and shows how we retrieve data, and then ends up creating these pretty maps in Cartopy. So just creating a few examples for this. I created some examples I went back to Mesopy and created some examples of Cartopy as well. And so I spent a couple weeks doing that as well, and that kind of taught me how to work with all this different data and how to prepare it and put it in fancy maps. And then that kind of led me to the next thing, where I wanted to put all of this on the web. And so I ended up, in the last several weeks here, I started working more in kind of rapid web development using Flask, and that really became what I enjoyed doing. I really like working with Flask, and I ended up making I think, a really good contribution the other day to Flask Google Maps that kind of enabled a bunch of new features. So I became really proficient using Flask while I was here. Flask is like a micro web development framework. Like, basically, you can use Flask, and we can look at the code here in a second. You can use Flask to make websites on the fly. So there's that whole Python backend that maybe does all the computing or whatever data retrieval that you need, and then it can be Flask can render a template, an HTML template. It's Jinja 2, I believe, is the template technology. Correct. Yeah, I'm trying to get to that. Right, so the first thing I actually created was a historical fire occurrence data viewer. And so I got a hold of this database that's 5 gigabytes that has all the historical fires that ever occurred. You're not going to see it because I deleted it inadvertently when I was transferring hard drives when I got a new computer. I never pushed the repo up. So that was my kind of first iteration using Flask. But the second iteration is using Flask to kind of make images from the Threads data server on the fly. So you can use you can use this web app. It's kind of a crude interface still, but you can use this web app to make several different GIFs or HTML5 videos for your class or whatever from the GFS quarter degree forecast run. So yeah, so basically all it is, again, it's this really crude interface, and then you can this is all, again, 100% pure Python, which is really fascinating. Like, the JavaScript's all hidden away with Flask. But yeah, you could select, let's just select surface temperature or whatever, and you all get the gist. This is going to take Siphon to retrieve data from Threads. It's going to put it in Matplotlib, and Matplotlib, using Ryan's code, which is animation. Ryan did the animation code for Matplotlib. Using Ryan's code, it ends up plotting this HTML5 video that I don't know if it's actually working or not. was working earlier.
It generates the HTML file?
Yeah, it generates the HTML, just the video.
Is it just canvas? Can you create a polygons and things like that?
I'm not, no, I don't think so. Right?
It's wrapping the, making it really big.
Yeah.
And wrapping it.
Yeah, so again, this is, what I wanted to do here was demonstrate using Flask for rapid web development. And so, yeah, it does take a long time to kind of go from, or go to Siphon getting information from TDS, and then putting it in Matplotlib, and then converting it to an HTML5 video, and then rendering it here. But I wanted to show that all of this could be accomplished in Python instead of having like separate, functions or separate scripts for JavaScript and HTML5 or HTML templates.
So how far get you the state boundaries?
That's a Cartopy. Cartopy, yeah. Yeah, Cartopy is built over Matplotlib, correct?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that was one of the web apps I built, and then this last web app is something I'm working with Michael with EdictSpy. This is a really cool thing because this didn't exist for Flask yet. I'm not completed with this app. I'm going to try to work on it as soon as I get to San Jose and get settled. The actual visualization part of it is there, just the data, putting the data in, and it's not actually there. But what this does is it takes from the Edict server, it's going to take all the current QTs and plot them on Google Maps. And eventually I'd like to extend that to the forecast QTs as well. So you'd be able to come here and just click on all those QTs available all over the nation and get all your forecasts and current soundings and everything. So this feature, it's kind of, you're going to be like, what? I don't, oh man, it's going to do this. Oops, sorry. And you die. All right. So basically, this is just a very simple Google map. What this is going to do is take all of these QT images that are generated in Matplotlib and MetPy and create this kind of interface to where you click these callouts and out come the images, and they'll be a lot bigger, of course. But this functionality didn't actually exist in Flask. They had no kind of functionality for callouts, which is kind of weird because Flask is this huge kind of web development framework, and they didn't support this feature from Google Maps API. And so I went in and forked the repo and messed around with some JavaScript for a couple days. Could have used John's help on that, but unfortunately he doesn't know JavaScript. So, but yeah, I went ahead and created this feature for them and submitted it. And so that was really cool because before I always felt really uncomfortable contributing to other people's repos. Like everything's open source, but still you're kind of hesitant to touch other people's work, especially as a young developer. I'm only a year or two in, and so I think what really gave me the confidence was when Ryan and Sean asked me to help out with Siphon, and then once I helped out with Siphon, I made minor contributions to Matplotlib and Cartopy, Loki, Flask, so a lot of big libraries for Python because of that. They just kind of opened my, confidence up to where, I felt good enough to say, like, ask these world-renowned developers, hey, could you fix this? Or, hey, this could be implemented differently. And so I really enjoyed being able to do that.
The backend data server for those QTs comes from either server?
It will, yes.
How did you get those?
Those sound, they're placeholders. Thanks a lot, Mohar. Really discovering. Right, yeah, those soundings are, those are just placeholders. I got Google Images, but it's actually very simple to do. I just haven't had time to do it. We did it.
Yeah, you can demonstrate it, yeah.
Yeah. Right, we did that. When was that? Was that the AWIPS or the AWIPS meeting? I think it was, yeah. Yeah, so we have done it. We just, I just need to go in there and actually implement it. I just haven't had much time to do it with moving. One of the big takeaways I got from this place is not knowing, I guess, or learning how to code or anything, but the Unidata Python workshop provided an excellent kind of outline for a potential course at San Jose State that my department chair and Dr. Sin Chow are actually very interested in doing. And so I kind of took that rough schedule from the Unidata Python workshop and adapted it to my own potential course, which they want me to teach next year, fall 2016. And so with all of the IPython notebooks already existing for much of these topics, I feel that maybe I could use those in teaching atmospheric science students on how to become an actual software engineer. Excuse me, not how to become an actual software engineer, but to kind of learn the process of what it takes. So version control, using an IDE, using these notebooks, working with NetCDF, etc. So that's stuff that's never introduced to us as students. The students, we do mostly a year or two of core Python, and that's really it. We get the basics, maybe in data structures and algorithms if you minor in computer science, but you're really never touching all the stuff you're going to use every day. You're not learning, I don't think, any best practices with maybe unit testing or using GitHub or Git. So I wanted to create this course, and Dr. Chow really motivated me to do this, and so hopefully in the next couple of weeks I can kind of get this spun up before classes really start kicking my butt and get this kind of made up. So I will say that's probably it. I touched a lot of things here in my time. I made a lot of things, and what was really great was Mesopie was probably my core contribution. That's my, the bread and butter of this. That's what I take away as my most proud accomplishment. But I also learned how to use Flask, how to use Matplotlib, how to use NumPy, Boki, all the big libraries that I would have never, ever had a chance to learn on my own. I worked with Jeff going over the IDV, Michael on the EDX, Siphon and MetPy with Sean and Ryan. Really just touched a lot of Unidata technology in the last 10 weeks, and hopefully I left a decent mark. I don't know, I just kind of in the last month or so I started fiddling around with web apps, and that started to be really fun. So if you all have any questions, let me know. I really, again, 10 weeks went by so fast, but I appreciate so much all of y'all's time. A lot of you made me laugh. I made a lot of new friends. I really had an absolute blast. Like, this is probably the most enjoyable experience I've ever had. Working with a group of people who I thought would be so intimidating, the founder of NetCDF. Working with all of these, huge names and, people that contribute so much to our community. And you come in as a student, you're like, please let me absorb what you know. And all of you set me down, and you really walked me through everything, and I couldn't ask for better. So I really appreciate all of that. Thank you so much.
I do have one nip.
What?
Yen and NetCDF should not be together.
I don't care. Steve. You want me to fix that right now?
Yeah.
Okay. This is please you, master.
Yeah, write the test first.
There. It has been done.
Now you got the second NetCDF.
I don't care anymore. The Meso West. Well, here's the actual API itself.
How big is that Mesopie?
Right. How big is what? I'm sorry.
How big is that network? What's the scope?
40,000 stations
Over across
in the United States.
Really?
Yeah. So it includes, like Wyoming Department of Transportation, Colorado, all the dots that have.
This is a Western U.S. network. That's what's called Mesopie.
Right. Yeah. And they.
Now it's continental United States.
Yeah. So all the remote automated weather stations. So I did create it with, there's a practical use. I worked as a fire meteorologist intern last summer, and monitoring raw stations can kind of be a pain. So a fire meteorologist or incident meteorologist, whatever you want to call them, can monitor this kind of custom list of raw stations now near a fire using, just a simple script. So it kind of makes it a lot easier to access all of this data in real time. So is there any pressing questions?